Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your SmackDown spoilers. WWE main event. Still didn't get another week of Saturday Morning Slam results. There wasn't anything posted. Well, here we go. But I did get last week's results for it. And also, Mike attended Monday's Raw in Roanoke, Virginia, and sent the following report on his experience. This was his fourth or fifth televised WWE event. His brother-in-law and his son and daughter was with him, and they have never had to been to a televised event before last night. They lined up about 45 minutes before the doors opened, about 6:15. The rain really was pouring down rain. And the natives got a little restless waiting for the venue to open. But once everybody was inside, everybody seemed to calm down. We were among the first to get inside, so the lines at the merchandise stands weren't very long. My niece and nephew got a Miz shirt and CM Punk shirt, respectively. And we made our way into the arena and settled in for Superstars. Afterwards, the crowd seemed really hot for the live cut-in for USA. And for the start of the in-ring action. Then before they went live for Raw, they introduced the announced team. Michael Coleslaw got boos. JBL got cheers and almost tripped. He was also allegedly seen later pounding a Bud Light, as it was described to him. And Jerry King Lawler received cheers. When Raw went off the air, the crowd actually seemed a tiny bit gassed. Until John Cena's music hit, always mixed reaction was great, with the boos lasting a bit longer than the cheers. His comedy, however, felt a little flat, and the place really erupted for Miss Piggy Guerrero. The woman is a heat machine. When Ryback was announced, there was a mixed reaction, but at the end of the show, he was being booed out of the building and jeered for the majority of the crowd, except for himself. The reporter, that is. Randy Orton was out next and played to the crowd for pops. He tried real hard to solicit cheers from the crowd throughout his match, and we gladly obliged. Damian Sandow got the usual heel response, as the crowd didn't seem to care for his parody of I Hear Voices. I, however, thought it was classic. I am sure that the internet will eat it up this morning. The match ending seemed a little weird, as Orton was barely able to get off his viper's pose before having to jump up and having to RKO Sandow. From where we were sitting, we couldn't see Orton getting KO'd by Big Show, as he was just kind of popped around the corner and hit him, then ducked back behind the stage. I was excited to see Chris Jericho, as the advertisements that I saw listed him as scheduled to appear. He was also only one of the two superstars to get pyro last night. The other was Kane. I don't count Ryback's explosions. There's no fireworks. I was disappointed, however, that he was only there to speak and not wrestle. But hey, I'll take it. When he brought out tons of folk, what I thought would be a bit of an eye roll moment turned into actual fun. I guess being there is really different than seeing it on TV. Although I'm really looking forward to the day that they let Brodus Clay just snap on someone. But I digress. Fandango, as well as Fandangoing, wasn't as over here in Roanoke as they seem to have been elsewhere. There were a few far between dancers, myself and my brother-in-law included, and I've noticed that they put the Dadas on the entrance video. Still, there didn't seem to be as many people singing along, and then there was R-Truth, and no one cared. Daniel Bryan got a good reaction, but seemed to stumble a bit coming out of the blocks with his promo. The people around me audibly questioned why he referred to Skip as the Ryback, of course. The crowd cheered when Kane turned Ryback around for his part of the promo. Ricardo Rodriguez got his usual crowd response, as did Alberto Del Rio, and there was a commercial break between him and Dolph Ziggler's entrance. We thought it was funny that Del Rio stopped posing for a few moments, then resumed when the show came back to air. Ziggler got a good reaction, though it was mostly boos, of course. Swagger got his usual response for his appearance, and after what was a great match, looked like an animal with a ladder. I really enjoyed that bit of build towards Extreme Rules. And then there were the Divas, and then Great Khali, and once again, no one cared. Oh well, I heard there was a Sierra Hotel, and then the crowd erupted. Roanoke believes in the Shield. Since they were wrestling the team of Kofi Kingston and the Usos, it made it kind of easy. Kofi got the good pop, but no one cared that the Usos were on Raw. Some people in my section even inquired as to who they were. Sad anyhow, typical Shield work there. Quick tags and separation, and a good match for everyone involved. Ambrose's spike DDT type finisher looks especially heinous to the reporter. A good job all around, and the crowd ate it up. Zack Ryder and Antonio Cesaro were up next. Ryder got most of the response, then Cesaro, who thankfully has abandoned the yodeling. Cesaro squashed Zack Ryder and then got a mic and cut that right out of place promo. I honestly thought that The Miz, who was advertised to return last night, was going to appear then, but Cesaro just finished his promo and left to no reaction. Paul Heyman by satellite was up next. Fun segment until they went into the office of Paul Levesque. I'm sure that Triple H's real office probably has a closet to the side of Mr. Levesque's office. Regardless, Brock Lesnar tearing the room a new one was fun to watch. The crowd reacted favorably to that, as well as Heyman's quips during the self-guided tour when Heyman launched into the string of further and further and further and further and further and further. And then Triple H's music started to interrupt, and the roof blew off the Royal Civic Center. I won't lie, I marked out like a little kid, but so did everyone else. We wish he'd done his full entrance, but again, we'll take what we can get, and he was unadvertised. He did stop his promo for a chant, but hey, it's the game. I'll give him pop of the night since it was unanimously positive. Diva's 6-person tag was up next. Bathroom break for very many people, but Caitlyn got a decent reaction during the match, as did AJ Lee before the match. As for the Bellas and the Funkadactyls, you guessed it, no one cared. Oh, AJ, yay. Mark Henry was such a great heel, he turned the whole what bit against the live crowd, which made us laugh. Good work, big man. Sheamus got a big pop when he came out and cut a generic I'm a fun living business handling face promo. But for a second there we thought we were actually they were going to go at it until Wade Barrett came out as to say, no, you will not take away this chance for the audience to see a champion lose. Anyways, the bit was Sheamus feigning throwing Barrett into the Henry was pretty funny. The ensuing beating by leather belt that Henry gave Sheamus, though, was not. Call it for all you want, people. Some things aren't choreographed. I saw a picture of his back following the bit. It looked as painful as it sounded. The second to last laugh was especially loud. Poor fella. At this point, still expected to see The Miz, so when Kane's pyro went off, the idea retired. The usual responses were Kane and far fewer Ryback supporters now, though there's still a vocal crowd, kind of sort of a match for a TV main event. After Ryback's win, the Shields, Daniel Bryan's, and John Cena's entrances, the crowd was hot and hated on Ryback hard for the chair jab and shot to Cena. I have to assume that this is where TV goes off the air, and we launched into our dark main event, which has changed twice already from Cena Ryback Sheamus versus the Shield to Cena Del Rio versus Ryback Ziggler to our current incarnation. It was kind of a strange transition with no announcement. Just a bell ringing, Daniel Bryan caught the wrath of the Shield for a bit, then got a hot tag to Cena, who cleared it out until The DQ via chair shot. The Shield went for the triple powerbomb on Cena, but Bryan recovered the chair and put an end to that. Cue attitude adjustment and chokeslam combo to end the night. I've been a fan of professional wrestling for a long time, but it's always so much fun to go to a live show and just mark out. You sit at home and analyze it, but when you're there in person, ain't nobody got time for that. My noobs in attendance had a great time and can't wait to go to another one. I hear Richmond is in about a month. And he said the biggest pop, Triple H, John Cena, and the Shield. Honorable mention, Randy Orton. Most heat, Vicky Guerrero, the Human Heat Machine, Ryback, and Mark Henry. Honorable mention, Michael Cole. Former WWE Diva Maria Kanellis landed a role in an indie film titled Army of the Damned. The film is due out later this year and will be available on demand. Here is a synopsis. The filming of the hit reality TV show goes horribly wrong when a group of small town cops respond to a call that brings a whole new meaning to the phrase domestic disturbance. Northeast independent wrestler Smith James announced on Twitter that he is assigned to a WWE developmental deal. The next 2 months will be my last indie shows for the foreseeable future, hopefully longer, as I was offered a WWE developmental contract, unquote. James was trained by former ECW World Champion and TNA announcer Taz at his finishing school on Long Island. Taz tweeted the following congratulatory message to James. Official congrats to a future player in WWE. At Big Game James 12 on Twitter. Pleasure trading you and pleasure being friends with you. Kick ass, bro. Referee Matt Bennett, who worked for Jersey All Pro Wrestling, has also signed to a WWE deal and reported to developmental this week. The advertised dark match for SmackDown taping last night was Sheamus and Randy Orton versus Big Show and Mark Henry in a tag match. The late Owen Hart was born on this date, 1965. He died May 23rd, 1999 at the age of 34 when he fell from the rafters at the Kemper Arena while performing a stunt as a Blue Blazer during the WWE Over the Edge pay-per-view. His widow Martha recently reached a lawsuit settlement with WWE regarding Owen's name and likeness being used in the company's Heart and Soul DVD. The late Hercules Fernandez, a.k.a. Raymond Fernandez, was born on this date, 1955. The former WWE star died March 6, 2004 at the age of 48. His wife attributed the cause of death to heart disease. He also appeared in several bodybuilding magazines in addition to working as a pro wrestler. The following matches are listed for the 11 p.m. Central airing time of AWA on ESPN Classic, another marathon. Marty Jannetty versus C. Curtis. The Barbarian and Boris Zukov versus C. Bassett. And Spike Jones, Earthquake, Ferris versus Scott the Body Hall. Jerry Blackwell versus Bruiser Brody. And now for the 12 a.m. matches on AWA ESPN Classic. Larry the Living Legend Zbyszko versus Clark. Marty Jannetty versus Knight. Pinky Sanchez versus Bruiser Brody. Buddy Rose and Doug Summers versus Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall for the AWA Tag Team title. Following matches for the 1 a.m. Central airing time of the ESPN Classic. Earthquake Ferris versus Colonel De Beers. Gus Torres versus Larry Zbyszko. Scary Sherry Martel versus Candy Divine. Kurt Hennig versus Stan Hansen in the main event. Stan Larry Hansen, that is. The following matches for the 2 a.m. on AWA on ESPN Classic. Pinky Sanchez and Bald Eagle versus Yuri Gorchenko and Alexis Smirnoff. Tony Leone versus Greg Gagne. M. Richards versus Colonel De Beers. Sweat versus Larry Zbyszko. Vader versus Gartner. And the 3 a.m. airing of the AWA on ESPN Classic, Alexis Smirnoff and Yuri Gorchenko versus Jones and Rogers. Jerry Blackwell versus Pinky Sanchez. Tom Stone versus Super Ninja. Greg Gagne versus Tony Leone. Larry Hennig, Larry Axe Hennig versus Boris Breznikov. Rick Gatner versus Kurt Hennig in the main event. 4 a.m. showing of the AWA on ESPN Classic. Doug Summers versus HBK Shawn Michaels. The Barbarian and Boris Zukov versus Marty Jannetty and Kurt Hennig. Leon Vader White versus Larry Zbyszko. Stan Larry Hansen versus David Sammartino for the AWA title. Former Ring of Honor champion Kevin Steen turned 29 years old yesterday, May 7th, 1984. Steen dropped the Ring of Honor title to Jay Briscoe just recently at the Supercard of Honor, a pay-per-view event. He is now feuding with his former Scum stablemate. And now for your Superstars taping from Roanoke, Virginia. Reported by Reader Mike. That was on Monday night. Ted DiBiase defeated Michael McGillicuddy. DiBiase got a polite response, which I'd imagine is because no one's seen him for a while. Michael McGillicuddy got no response. He also didn't generate any heat during their match, as the crowd couldn't care less about either one of them. They did, however, get behind DiBiase in his attempts to power back from submission holds and popped for him when he won the match. This is a more detailed for the Superstars than from Monday night's taping results. Cody Rhodes defeated Jesse Gabriel. Rhodes actually got a decent response. Perhaps they really like mustaches there in South Central Virginia. This was a pretty cut and dry match until close to the end when there were two cool spots that led to two near falls. Gabriel went for a moonsault, missed and landed on his feet. And then Cody Rhodes and his mustache performed his own moonsault, was connected for a 2 count. Then Cody and his mustache went for his off the middle rope kick. Gabriel caught him with a set out power bomb. Really enjoyed those 2 spots. Johnny Fairplay and Dave McAdoo was at the SmackDown tapings in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is given 2 results for the spoilers for SmackDown, 2 reports. Also the main event, dark match, Adrian Neville, formerly of FCW and NXT, beat Kurt Hawkins. Both of them returned. These are Hito Hawkins. Neville won with a 450 corkscrew frog splash. Main event taping, Randy Orton defeated Antonio Cesaro. Orton won with the RKO, a good match, and the crowd was really into Orton. Match number 2, Justin Gabriel and the Usos defeated 3MB. Gabriel won with a 450 splash, and that concluded the main event. And again, Johnny Fairplay posting the results for SmackDown. Highlight reel was up first with Chris Jericho and Ryback that opened the show. Teddy Long interrupted and booked Ryback versus Jericho for the main event. Ryback sucker Jericho to end the segment. Match number 1, Intercontinental Champion Kofi Kingston defeated Cody Rhodes. Cody's beautiful disaster kick was countered with Trouble in Paradise, a fun match that the crowd loved Kofi. Then a recap of the workplace video with Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman was shown from Monday Raw at with Triple H's office. They teased showing this during the main event, but never did. I don't think the crowd wanted to see it twice, so it was a smart edit. Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter was interviewed backstage. Zeb said something about Swagger versus Big E Langston. He said it will be a real American versus affirmative action. Then added, yeah, I said it. Match number 2. Swagger with Zeb Coulter fought Big E Langston with Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee. Alberto was on commentary. Apparently this was an ODQ match and there was plenty of ladder usages. And more Ziggler and Del Rio than Swagger and Langston. The match somehow ended with Del Rio holding the belt while standing on the top of the ladder. Pretty good win for a guest commentator, I guess. Match number 3. Dean Ambrose with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins defeated Daniel Bryan with Kane by disqualification. Daniel Bryan had the first real chance of the night, followed by the even louder Borgasm chant. Ambrose is even sleazier live. What a talent, and a long match that people are going to like on television. Bryan applied the Borgasm lock late. Rollins tried to run in, but Kane stopped him. Reigns kicked Bryan, but Kofi Kingston ran in and attacked Ambrose for the disqualification. The crowd exploded for Kingston and the Bryan comeback. Mark Henry tried to break the world record earlier today by pulling a tractor-trailer truck. Apparently he did it. Later tonight, I will attempt the same feat with my car, he says. I will use a key and a gas pedal, though. Actually, Henry's earlier footage featured one tractor-trailer. He tried to pull two, which is supposedly a world record. Amazingly, it was a really cool segment, and the crowd cheered for Henry. There was a big pop for That's What I Do. Randy Orton was interviewed backstage. He said he's a poisonous steak. Okay. Match number 4, Big Show versus Sweet Tea, was already in progress. Show knocked out Tensai and then Spear Clay. However, Randy Orton came out and RKO'd show. Caitlyn was backstage with Natalya trying to figure out the identity of her secret admirer. Meanwhile, Great Khali was wearing a Rey Mysterio mask while trying to be undercover. And this is why I drink. Not. Chris Jericho versus Ryback by won over Ryback by disqualification. Biggest pops of the night was for Jericho's entrance. Really good heat for Ryback, stalling outside the ring. Monday will be the first ever dance-off between Jericho and Fandango. I'll be scoring on Twitter, as Johnny Fairplay says, twitter.com/Johnny Fairplay. He's also in my friends list as well. As he says, the spoiler alert, 4 out of 10 Bret Hart scoring system will be in place. Ryback started a Ryback chant. People chanted it back. I hate people. Jericho escaped a shell-shocked attempt and countered into was Jericho. Later, the crowd was going nuts, and Jericho hits the code breaker on Ryback outside the ring. Ryback was disqualified for crotching Jericho on the ring post. After the match, Ryback clotheslined Jericho over the announcer's table. Josh Matthews interviewed Mark Henry in the ring, and they said 2 tractor trailers weighed 55 tons. Unknown what that meant. So I guess that will close your SmackDown. In the dark match main event, Sheamus Randy Orton defeated Mark Henry and Big Show. Big pop for Sheamus. Most people didn't expect to see him since he wasn't on the SmackDown taping. Sheamus wrestled in his shirt. He performed a brogue kick on Henry and won the match for his team, which to conclude the show. This was the best SmackDown I've attended in years. My daughter Piper has great taste. She cheered the heels all night, but she doesn't boo because that's mean. And the biggest pops from Johnny Fairplay, Chris Jericho, Randy Orton, Sheamus, most heat, Ryback, Big Show. And now for the only a partial SmackDown spoilers from Phil on a different website. Highlight reel started off with Chris Jericho and Ryback kicking off this week's SmackDown. Teddy Long interrupted and made Ryback versus Jericho for later. Ryback sucker punched Jericho in the face. A little bit different from the last one. Kofi Kingston defeated Cody Rhodes with Trouble in Paradise. A recap of Brock Lesnar's visit to WWE headquarters was shown. Lesnar and Triple H will face off on Monday's Raw. Backstage interview with Zeb Coulter and Zeb Coulter. Zeb says Swagger versus Big E Langston will be a real American versus affirmative action. Well, that was the same. Alberto Del Rio came out for commentary. Langston versus Swagger was up next. They brawled with ladders. Del Rio and Dolph also got involved. The match ended with Del Rio posing with the World Heavyweight title on top of the ladder. Next, we had Dean Ambrose defeating Daniel Bryan by disqualification. Thought it was the other way around with the last report. Seth Rollins interfered, but Kane took him out. Roman Reigns then attacked Bryan. It's the same. Kofi Kingston came out, made the save, and hit Ambrose to get disqualified. Then we see a video from earlier today where Mark Henry tried to break the world record by pulling an 18-wheeler truck. Backstage interview with Randy Orton talking about Big Show, and Tensai versus Big Show was up next, and that was the end of their results for them. Thanks for viewing. Peace out. God bless.